Welcome to the 2024 fall season. Happy fall, everyone. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe. It really helps the channel to thrive and to grow, and it's also absolutely free. Thank you. So now to Saturn's cycles in 2024 for Trump, and as I have done with the other planets recently, first a bit of background, what the planet is doing in his chart and what it was doing in 2016 and in 2020, which will help us to throw some light on the situation. So Saturn in his chart is in his 12th sign next to his Venus. It's in Cancer, and this goes a long way to explain his, number one, obsession with real estate. Cancer is a home sign. It rules the home literally. Next to his Venus, though, what happens there is Venus is, among a number of other things, is a person's sense of their own attractiveness, beauty. And on the one hand, he tells everyone that he's beautiful, amazing. In fact, I couldn't believe that in one of his recent rallies he told his attendees that he's better looking than Kamala, which I thought was pretty weird among the many weird things that this guy says and does. But it also reveals his insecurity around this issue, because Saturn, if you think about it, Saturn is a contracting energy, and unless you really grow in your wisdom and really try to understand how to manifest that contraction in a positive way, namely it would be through your ability to refine your focus, and it's how you concentrate on things and it's how you work on things. But writ large, Saturn has a lot to do with a person's acquired wisdom through experience. Problem here is that Trump is a kind of stunted growth individual. He reminds me of, a schoolyard bully from my, middle school, teenage years at best. And so he represents that adage really, really well that a mentor of mine passed on to me way back when I was in my 20s. His mentor said to me, "Listen, Andre, some people have 20 years experience and some people have 1 year's experience 20 times. And this, I think, is what has happened to Trump in terms of his psychological development. Of course, he will have gotten better. It's impossible not to at certain things in his life. But fundamentally, he's really stunted and really stuck there. The Saturn in the 12th is meant to be a place of spirituality, a place where you develop your spirit through meditation practices, retreats, or you could say, where you would do social justice, you would get involved in ways to help other people, charitable work, even the notion of being a good, solid civil servant would also be in the 12th sign. Well, he doesn't do any of that. What he does with the 12th is the bottom of the 12th. Think of the 12th as the place where you find monasteries on the high end and prisons on the low end. So because it's the last house in the zodiac, the energy travels, and at the 12th it meets its karma. Now, if your karma is you're a normal person, then in the 12th you're inclined to seek illumination. You might not join the monastery directly, but you would do some version of that to bring yourself to that kind of consciousness. However, in this guy's case, the 12th is the threat of prison, the threat of being sequestered, the threat of losses, all the bottom ends of the 12th sign, just like all the bottom ends of all the other planets, because it's what he always does, right? So Saturn being there, it becomes a huge problem because he literally focuses Saturn. Saturn is a contracting energy that rules your focus. It's what you work on. That's why the cross is above the crescent in the symbol. So he works on what? On ways to get around rules, crimes, basically, the 12th. It's the classic criminal position, but it also is broadcasting. you keep doing this over and over, eventually you're going to get in trouble. And that's what's happened to him in his life. This is something that you see in many cases as a person ages and they become less and less able to do what they're doing, where they're getting away with it, so to speak, in quotes, then their karma, their life catches up to them and they pay the price. And I believe he's reached this level for sure in his life. Saturn also describes your sense of how to establish boundaries, how to apply good limits on your own expression, on your habits and so on. Another area where he's very, very weak. In other words, he is possibly the worst person I've ever seen in terms of lack of discipline, considering the levels that he has reached in his life in terms of he actually became president, but remarkably undisciplined, which is another mark of a compromised, afflicted Saturn. One of the reasons you know this is Saturn really isn't all that comfortable in Cancer because Saturn rules Capricorn, the opposite sign. So in Western astrology, it's said to be in its detriment. So that's its position, and you realize it carries that energy wherever it goes. So this planet is quite dangerous in that sense because as it's moving around, it'll bring that theme into play and it becomes problematic. Another meaning of the 12th house is your enemies, literally, people that are out to get you. And there are many people that are out to get this guy, even if he has many helpers along the way. So all of that is Saturn. But now, 2016. In 2016, he was able to squeeze in there just before the Saturn moved into the opposition to his Sun. It was conjoining his Moon, opposing his Sun. It was back in Sagittarius. Right? Now, another thing, too, is when Saturn is really wired in your chart, the one thing you know is that a person is going to be working really hard on something, which is exactly what happened to him in 2017. He was new to government. He really struggled that year as Mueller was, the special counsel is put in place. There was a constant threat happening. He fired Comey. He had to get rid of Mike Flynn. It was a very turbulent year because of the Saturn position. But in terms of getting into office, he was able to sidestep the fact that it was moving toward his Sun in an opposition, but it hadn't reached that point yet. Now, by 2020, it was a lot more problematic because by then, together with Jupiter and Pluto, but even just by itself in Capricorn, Capricorn is probably the least friendly sign to him because it opposes his Cancer planets and squares the Libra and Aries planets. And so 2020, he just was never going to win that election. In fact, I remember doing all kinds of videos emphatically saying not a chance, because you could see that really close to election night even, Saturn was opposing Venus. Venus rules the 10th, which is his career, his reputation. The 10th is a house that signals in a lot of ways whether you'll be victorious or not, because it's the highest house in the chart. So 2020, this planet was a definite resounding no, and that's why he lost. 2024, now it's moved from Capricorn, went right through Aquarius, and it's in Pisces. Now, the first thing I'll tell you about Pisces is that Saturn today is where it was in the mid-90s when he basically bottomed out. He was flat broke. That's when he declared that famous, he filed those taxes with the $1 billion loss. And you see, this is where you see the path of Trump as well. Saturn in Aquarius is 91, 92, 93, Pisces 94, 95. Even before that, he started to really struggle with Saturn in Capricorn back then. Saturn in Capricorn correlates with 2020 now. So 89, 90, that's Saturn in Capricorn. He struggled with that. So this period of his life correlates with that eventual crash where apparently he said to his daughter, some bum on the street had more money than he because he was so broke. And later he resuscitated through other planetary points that came in, like Uranus in Aquarius, Neptune in Aquarius, etc. But the point is, Saturn is back where it was. It's in a money house, in a house of other people's money, in a house of loans, insurance, banking, hence all the problems that he's had in that respect. and it's not a good house. Same reason, Neptune, in that video I talked about how the 8th sign is not a good place. The Saturn here is another point that adds that risk of something really bad happening, like the question of the now 2 assassination attempts. Saturn in 2024 is operating out of the 19.5-degree range where it reached its station at the end of June, even though now at election time it backtracks all the way back to 12.5 degrees Pisces, but its actual degree that it operates out of is 19.5, which is not a good degree for him because it squares his sun and moon, or rather gets close enough, let's say. And this tells us that what happened in late June was really nothing but a very Pyrrhic victory. He thought he had achieved something at the time through what he did in the debate with Biden, but then what he actually did is he arranged his own fate by causing the entry of Kamala into the race. So, bottom line, although I would probably say Saturn in this particular year isn't as, let's say, as black and white, as blunt a force, absolutely stating, no, not going to happen. It's a definite no as well, and there are so many other definite no's, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, all the planets that I've done so far, and I'm not done yet. So this planet is another force that is denying him the presidency, and worse, just like Neptune, because Saturn and Neptune are going to go into Aries next, a little bit next year, completely in 2026. And Saturn more quickly than Neptune. This is what's really bad. Saturn will more quickly than Neptune in 2026 reach degrees that put it in contact with that Access Hollywood T that he has in his chart. Eris, Neptune, Mercury, a place that he absolutely hates. When planets go through there, he struggles mightily. And Aries in the chart is the house of law and legality. So this is why I'm anticipating that what's going to happen here is he loses, and then he's got some runway around the legal matters. That documents case is going to come back. There'll be the Jack Smith case. All of them are going to coalesce. And so by 2026, well, maybe he would want to do it sooner, but my guess is that he probably should think about leaving the country or doing something pretty radical, because what is coming down what is coming in as we move toward 2026 is pretty bad, pretty bad.